Hey, what is up, EduMatch fam? Super excited for today's launch because we have one of my good friends here with us, Dr. Angela Dye. How are you doing today?
Hey, Dr. Sarah, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks. So good to have you on here. I'm really excited about your book because it has been such a joy to collaborate with you.
Mhm.
And I'm so happy that this is going to be out into the world. So we're talking today about her book, Pragmatic Progressivism. And if you are watching this today, when it launches, which will be June 20th, then that means that the book is available and you can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or on our website, edumatchpublishing.com. So we're here today to talk a little bit more about it. So again, welcome, Dr. Angela. And if you could please introduce yourself to anyone watching who may not know you.
Okay, Dr. Sarah, I love saying it. Dr. Sarah, Dr. Angela, that's great. One day we have to do a show about being Black women by the doctor title, because that's always
Yes.
like a task to determine, am I going to allow myself to be Angela or Dr. Angela? So we'll do that at another time. But I am Angela Dye. It's an interesting, my background is a real mesh up between education, social science, and business. I've always had a passion for social change. And I went to school to be a lawyer, an attorney. I think you and I have that in common. And along the way, so I went and got a social science degree. And in that social science program, I had to have a minor or a secondary support. And I picked up education. And so I found that education really spoke to me. I love instruction. I love the art of teaching and learning. And so at that time in my life, it was perfect to become a social studies teacher. But as I matured in my craft and I moved into leadership, I found myself moving away from the social science part of me and more into the education world. But I still am a social change agent by heart. And so what I do now, like I've been doing equity work for a few different, I work at the state level now, but last year I worked at the district level. And that's when I'm in my employment mode. But when I'm in my true self, I vacillate between an entrepreneur and a writer, and both of those ends connect me to social change agentry. So that's a little bit about me. It's very non-traditional. I'm sure most of the people on your show kind of can say, I work in this capacity, but I've really been all over the place.
Yeah, you have done it all. You have a vast array of perspective, and I mean, and that plays out in the book. You know, you cover so much valuable information for our readers. So super excited to have you on and to have you as part of our family and to have the book as part of our EduMatch catalog. So tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind your writing of progressivism.
So this is my third text. My first book, Empowerment Starts Here, which was about the school that I founded and started. And then, of course, my dissertation took a look at the real intersections between race, power, and instruction, really race, class, power, and instruction. And so writing those two texts, I really, in my mind, wasn't writing a third book. But as I found myself on Twitter, there was a time when I was like really in Twitter. That's how you and I met, right? I lived in Twitter and I felt like an orphan. I felt like an orphan in Twitter because I never fully connected to any one group. So you had individuals who were more progressive. Of course, I'm a progressive. So I'm like, yeah, those are my people. And then a tweet would come along and like, nope. And then you had the critical pedagogues. And I'm like, okay, I'm a critical pedagogue. These are my people. And then they would say something like, no. And so that's what happened. I kept like looking for my people. And then of course there's a very small part of me that's traditional. I can get into a conversation with other traditionalists, but I already know that I don't agree fully with them. And so I'm thinking to myself, as a practitioner or as a scholar practitioner, all of these disciplines come together at the local level in the classroom, in the building. And I begin to get curious about how many of those individuals can circulate and bring it all home in the classroom. You know what I mean? Can you be a progressive? Can you be a critical pedagogue? Can you do it when it matters, when the rubber meets the road, when you're serving kids? Who are you when you're in front of the kids? And that's when I'm like, you know what? I'm a pragmatic progressive. When I'm at the classroom level, working with children, that's who I am. And so that was the inspiration to the book.
I love that. I absolutely love that. You brought your full self to the text and you bring your full self in every situation. So I absolutely love that. That's one of the many, many things I admire about you. So yeah, absolutely. So why was writing this book important to you? And I know that you already kind of touched on it, but is there
Mhm.
anything else that you want to add about that?
No, I think I changed that question a little bit, and I slanted it as what's the purpose of the book. And so I'm going to talk about that in there. You have another question about who's the audience. I'm going to push that together because when I was on Twitter in these discussions, I always found myself relating to the communities and then going, but. And so I'm like, okay, I should start writing this. So this book actually started off as a series of blogs. And I have another guy friend of mine who has published several books from blogs. And I think it's the hardest thing to do to take a blog post and translate it into a book. It's the smallest text that I've written, but it took the longest. And so this book is for those different audiences. It's primarily for the progressive. You'll see that clearly, right? So pragmatic progressivism is about, yes, I'm a progressive. Progressivism is good for kids. But when you're serving students who have been historically at the margins, progressivism, as we have imagined it, as we have interpreted it, does not fully serve kids who have been historically marginalized. It doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater, as some traditional educators do, because there are traditional educators who say progressivism doesn't completely work, and they're right. But progressivism mostly works. So I wanted to write the book for other progressives to say, yes, and let's consider these additional elements. And then I think you can, in that text, I could sell this book to other critical pedagogues because most of the critical pedagogues that I know don't really have measurable results in the classroom. Now, the moment I say measurable, that gets controversial, right? What do we mean by measuring? Who's doing the measuring? What is the measuring instrument? All of that's controversial. I talk about that in the book. But I'm a public school educator. These are public dollars. We have to be accountable to where that money comes from, and we have to measure our effectiveness. And so that's who the book is for. And that's really the purpose of the book, just to make this case that progressivism works for the margins. But these are the things that we have to add. And I want to just, Sarah, can I say one more thing?
Oh, yeah, totally.
So we talk a lot about Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings, right? Culturally relevant instruction. Everybody loves talking about her, but there are two things that people don't realize about her. One is the pedagogy of opposition. Very few people talk about that element, which is about power, right? What is your relationship to power? How do you center power in the instructional process? Many people don't talk about that. And the other piece that Ladson-Billings talks about is you have to diversify that instruction. Right? You meet the children where they are and you give them what they need. So to say I'm a pure progressive, I'm a pure critical pedagogue, that doesn't work when you're trying to meet the needs of kids. You need to be for them what they need you to be, period. And that's really what I wanted to say. And Dr. Ladson-Billings, I hope I've represented your work appropriately.
I absolutely love that. Oh my goodness, that is fire right there. And that is a gem. So thank you so much for sharing that. So time has flown by. We're almost here at our final question. We are here at our final question, I should say. And I feel like I would love to just pick your brain all day if I could, you know? Yeah, but here's our final question. What other resources do you suggest for readers and where can they find you?
Well, I want to just do a plug for my other text. I've already said book number 1 was Empowerment Starts Here. That's when I talk about schooling at the school-wide level, which is really an important task. It is achievable. So I talk about that in my dissertation, which is oh my God, I can't even tell you the title of that book. I think it's something like the powerlessness of student achievement, right? Like we always talk about student achievement, but most conceptualizations of student achievement is really about powerlessness, and we want to interrupt that. I do my blogs, I think on my website, Empowerment Starts Here. You can check me out there. And I would say those 3 texts are really important. And just go to my website, Empowerment Starts Here. And my podcast, Empowerment Starts Here. You can check that out as well.
Yes, and I'm a longtime listener and huge fan of your
And you were
podcast.
on the show. I interviewed
I
you, so don't
was,
forget that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was such a good time. So super excited for the book and super excited for all of the great work you do. So I wanted to thank you so much, Dr. Dot, for being on here
Thank you
today
for
and
having
sharing.
me, Dr. Sarah. I really appreciate it,
Oh,
okay? You're
appreciate you as
amazing.
well.
You're
So are
amazing.
you. So are you. And I learned so much from you. So thank
You
you
as
so
well.
much for everything. And I really wanted to thank everyone for tuning in as well. So again, if you are watching this on or after June 20th, then the book is available now on Barnes & Noble, on Amazon, and on edumatchpublishing.com. So definitely do yourself a favor and check it out. And we'll be back for our next launch and for some really cool live streams in the future. So thank you again. And we will see you later. So take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks.
Sarah.
Thank you, Dr. Angela.
It's Edge Match. Edge Match. It's Edge Match. You're at Edge Match.